Welcome to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. Now here's your host, Tim McMahon.
Hey, it's Tim. Sorry for the lack of content recently, but I promise you after the Rogue One release date, I'll be back and on schedule. Hey, but speaking of Rogue One, that brings me to today's topic. Is it me, or is Lucasfilm showing way too much Rogue One content early? Now, as I've said on the show before, I feel like Lucasfilm has a huge job in front of them of getting the idea of what Rogue One is out to the general public. By this I mean, well, you and I as Star Wars nerds, we understand what Rogue One is. We know when it takes place and what it's all about. But for the average Joe on the street who likes Star Wars, but doesn't live the Star Wars lifestyle, they may be a little bit confused about what they're about to see. Lucasfilm is working hard to tell these people that it's a prequel to A New Hope, but it's not a prequel, and that it's not Episode 8. How are they doing this? By showing all the traditional Star Wars elements that people know and love from the classic Star Wars trilogy. There's Darth Vader, the Death Star, X-Wings, AT-ATs, Stormtroopers, and so on and so on. But for me, as a hardcore Star Wars fan, well, from my point of view, they're showing just a little bit too much. I've seen way more than I want to see. And this is coming from a guy who has not watched every single television spot they've released. They're up to what, 23, 24? Here, let me give you two examples of what I mean. First example. In one of the trailers, we see Baze Mulbus. Sorry, the new names aren't rolling off my tongue yet. Well, he fires a shoulder-mounted rocket at one of the AT-ATs. Excuse me, an AT-ACT. In my mind, they're always going to be AT-ATs. In the trailer, he fires his rocket and boom, it explodes. Then, in one of the international trailers, we see a few more seconds of the same scene, and we realize that the rocket does no damage to the walker, which makes sense. I would expect that if you fire a rocket at a walker, it's basically just going to bounce off. However, in one of the new TV spots, they show the same scene, but they show even more. He fires the rocket, it hits, explodes, does no damage, the walker's head swings back around, and you see the oh crap look on his face. Fine, that's where they should have ended it, but no. Next thing you see is X-Wings swoop in and save the day. Now right there, that ruins the surprise. Why not just end with the oh crap look on his face? Now I'm sure this isn't a major spoiler, I'm sure it's not a plot point, at least not a major one, but still, it would have been a cool surprise to have seen on the big screen. Now the next example is a bit of a spoiler for hardcore fans, and it is a spoiler, so you've been warned, spoiler alert, but you've probably already seen this on social media because there's been no escaping it this past week. Apparently, in one of the more recent television spots, there's shots of the big space battle over Scarif, and you see a variety of ships in the Rebel fleet, including what appears to be, spoiler, the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels. And if you look closely, right next to it is the ship that's flown by Commander Sato in Star Wars Rebels. Now, at this point, there's no way to know if these are the exact same ships from Rebels, but come on. They're definitely the same type of ships, and this is an awesome Easter egg. This is the kind of thing that I love as a Star Wars fan, where all the properties sort of link back together. I'm really quite upset that this was revealed in a commercial. How crowd-pleasing would it have been to see these ships on the big screen on opening night? Can you just imagine a packed theater filled with the hardcore nerds like ourselves? Folks who probably have an understanding of what Star Wars Rebels is. When these ships blazed across the screen, the crowd would have gone crazy. That would have been an awesome moment as a Star Wars fan. That would have been, it just sends shivers down to my spine thinking about how great that would have been. But, come on, we're getting it in a commercial, being spread on social media. Something like this doesn't pull in the non-hardcore fans, and really it's just spoiling the fun for folks like us. I'm sorry, I have a cold, I'm getting a little whiny. I'm going to stop now. Plus, I'm running out of time. But to sum up, my point is this. 1, I feel like Lucasfilm is giving way too much of Star Wars Rogue One away. Way more than they did for The Force Awakens. 2, however, I understand why they're doing it. Because, like I said, they need to pull in the non-hardcore fans. But, and point number 3, the whiny, immature, crybaby fanboy inside of me is angry about all this. I get why they're doing it. I just don't like it. Meh. Alright, that's it. That's all I got. I'll just end with my hope is all these little things they're giving away. I expect, I hope, I'm guessing, after we see Rogue One, we'll realize they really weren't that big of a deal. Still, come on, man. Should have saved the Ghost for opening night. Alright, am I being too fickle? Am I being too nitpicky? Am I being overly curmudgeonly? Tell me what you think. I want to hear. Send me an email at 12parsecspodcast@gmail.com or check out 12parsecspodcast.com to find links to all my social media outlets. I want to hear what you think. Ootini!
You've been listening to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy, part of the expanded Fandomverse network of shows. For links and show notes, visit our website, 12parsecpodcast.com. Follow Less Than 12 Parsecs on Twitter at 12parpod, on Instagram at 12 Parsecs Podcast, on Tumblr at 12 Parsecs Podcast, and find us on Facebook as well. And please let us know what you think. Email us at 12parsecspodcast@gmail.com.
Hey, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher to enter the amazing merchandise end of the year giveaway contest we're holding. I really should have come up with a better name for this.